Okay, hello everyone. Hello, hi.
Sorry, I
Hello, and welcome everyone to another series of the. Let me just close that for a quick second. To another series of the BINALOT Talks, which is a lecture series that we usually have here at the School of Archaeology every Wednesday, where we invite various speakers from different backgrounds to speak about a given topic that they research or that they find interesting. Today we have two very special speakers to our department, very close friends and graduates as well. But before we begin, before I introduce the talk, I believe we have a quick announcement by our very own Dr. Victor Paz. Sir Vic, quick announcement. Thank you, Sir Vic. Yeah, so before we actually begin, because I do see some new and unfamiliar faces, let me just make some quick introductions as I have not introduced myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Arturo Tablan, or Jayjay. I'm a familiar face around here and a master's student who will be usually the one doing the moderations for the weekly BINALOT Talk series. One of my co-facilitators for the BINALOT Talk behind is our Espigar. Kuimai and his tech team usually are in charge of all the tech and recording for this for the BINALOT Talk series. And I should also note that the BINALOT Talk series is officially endorsed and funded by the Extension Program, so thank you OVCRD for funding. But before we begin, let me introduce our speakers for today. So first, who is currently with us in person, Dr. Michelle Eusebio is an assistant professor at the Science and Society program of the College of Science, UP. She received her PhD in anthropology, majoring in archaeology from the Department of Anthropology at the University of Florida in 2016. She received her MS in archaeology and BS chemistry degrees at the University of the Philippines at the Archaeological Studies program, now the School of Archaeology, back in 2010, and then the Institute of Chemistry in 2002. She is an archaeological chemist and anthropological archaeologist by background. Her research interests are food and foodways, Southeast Asian archaeology, archaeological chemistry, especially biomolecular archaeology, making archaeology relevant to contemporary concerns in Southeast Asia, long-term perspectivism in policymaking, as well as history of science and technology. Our second speaker for today, Dr. Fredeliza Z. Campos, is a field archaeologist and zooarchaeologist with core interest in the analysis and interpretation of fish bones assemblages in Southeast Asia. She received her MS Archaeology from the Archaeological Studies program, again, now the School of Archaeology, and her MPhil in ethnomusicology at the University of Hong Kong. Her research has a strong focus on the orna ornanological analysis of musical instruments to understand her prehistoric music in the Indo-Pacific region. Sadly, she could not be here with us today, but she will be joining us over Zoom, and she'll chime in every once in a while to enrich this presentation. So, without further ado, Dr. Michelle and Dr. Isa Campos.
Okay. Oh. Okay. 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 So thank you very much for coming for this emergency BINALOT talks. Yeah, and and it's also nice because it's a chance for me and Isa to co-present together because during the first presentation it was only me who was able to present, and I'm thankful for that she agreed to present with me. So okay. Okay, so to put into context, yeah. Ay. Next slide. Okay. Oops. Oh, there you go. Okay, so to put this in context, this presentation was first presented on during the 9th World Archaeological Congress in Prague, Czech Republic, last year, but it was kind of a rush. The original conference was postponed for 2 years, so I ended up presenting online. So this was a paper in the session on breaking bread and raising a glass, bridging ethnoarchaeological and archaeological research on food and culinary habits. So this session was organized by Dr. John Arturo, a known ceramic archaeologist and ethnoarchaeologist from a university in United States, and Dr. Sultana Maria Balamotti, who is a known Greek archaeobotanist. So they organized this session, and too bad we cannot see the titles, but the range of papers are ethnoarchaeology overlapping with a lot of studies on ceramics, organic residue analyses, and archaeobotany, ethnobotany, a few on zooarchaeology, and there's even one paper on the grinding and pounding stuff of the Mexican. So and hopefully most of these papers will get through the special issue in Archaeology journal that they are also both organizing. So, and to be honest, our paper is currently under review and under revision. So hopefully we get through the what they call the banga of publication. Okay, so speaking of ethnoarchaeology, anyone can define ethnoarchaeology here? Because I'm aware that you have an ethnoarchaeology course here at the School of Archaeology. And how it is different from ethnography. Huwag na kayo mahiya, tayo lang naman dito. Sino bang pwede? Sino bang students ni Ermin dito? Si Dante. Dante and Ian. Go lang.
Gaining insight from extant or living cultures so that we can better interpret what we find in archaeology.
Ayun. Because ethnoarchaeology has an emphasis on the archaeology and the material remains of the practices. So yeah, we take care of the material remains. Yeah, okay. So vis-a-vis ethnography that only take care of the practice. Like but with archaeology we always take care of the tangibles. Like what ayun. So yun lang yun. So we kind of interchange the term ethnoarchaeology and ethnography, but we take note always of the material remains so we can better interpret archaeological record. So there, okay. And for background, ayan. So another field involved in this paper is the organic residue analysis. It's actually a field by itself, but it overlaps a lot with with biomolecular archaeology and archaeological chemistry. But basically, it means this is the field that utilizes analytical organic chemical techniques to identify the nature and origins of organic remains that cannot be characterized using traditional techniques of archaeological investigation. So in my case, my focus is on the organic residue analysis of ceramics to extract, analyze, and identify the organic remains that's stuck on the pottery. But this analysis is also being done in other materials such as lithics and containers and many other archaeological materials. So for another concept involved in this presentation, we have food and food waste. So we often hear a lot about subsistence strategies. How do we get our food? But it's actually a part of the larger chain operatoire, the food waste, which means what happens to the food and associated materials from their acquisition, or the subsistence strategies until they are discarded. So in the middle, you have this culinary practice that comprise of food preparation and food consumption, and that's where the ceramics and other material culture of food waste are kind of heavily involved. And in connection to archaeology, food waste is also a series of cultural formation processes where there are resulting food and material culture remains from every step that go into the archaeological record, which the ones that we are taking note of. So and the study of food and food waste is not only a realm of one particular method or field. Because as we see, all food materials, including lithics and ceramics, are involved. So it's actually multiple approaches are being done to study food and food waste from past until the present. So, ethnoarchaeology on food and culinary practices is usually done in communities and households that still practice traditional ways of food preparation and consumption. So, for organic residue analysis and other scientific analysis on archaeological materials, the motivation is to gather ethnographic materials with known biographical histories to be included as comparative reference materials alongside with experimental, biological, and geological materials. So, these materials, such as pots with known culinary histories, bridge a practical gap that provide insights into the impacts of continual artifact usage that will be impossible to simulate in experiments. So ethnoarchaeology as a field also allows for fine-tuning the collection of relevant data and incorporation of analytical methods, and it also allows the utilization of relational analogies to infer social organizations and cultural practice, where past food waste, technologies, and food have broader implications. So if you see, in what I do, the organic residue analysis of ceramics, and in what Isa do. So Isa, by the way, she's been doing this reference collection of fish since she did her master's in ASB. So if you see the fish bones over there, a lot of those were contributed by her. So it's we also get stuff from experimental and ethnoarchaeology. So this concept is illustrated by a lot of these studies. So these are some of the studies that did organic residue analysis of pottery from ethnoarchaeological work. So probably you are familiar with John Skibo, because for especially for those doing the pottery, and this is really the nice one. The Greek pottery that had been used for 40 years. So there's a lot of these studies, and the one at the bottom by Dun et al. And Drew et al. is a large scale project that covers a huge swath of area and analyze like almost 100 parts, like ethnographic and archaeological. So you saw the unusual in the title. Okay, so in contrast to those works and and a lot of other works in the session on breaking bread. So our case from southern Vietnam is unusual because, well, when to be honest, when I stepped there in Vietnam, it's a new country for me back in 2012. I always pursued to go to houses to talk about food and food waste and collect pottery, but we ended up getting ethnographic pottery not in villages and households, but in restaurants that serve earthenware pots to cook and serve kakoto or braised caramelized fish too. It's similar to adobo, but it's this one has fish sauce and sugar. So where's Isa? Maybe Isa, do you want to share something about this kakoto? Saan na ba siya?
Am I talking? Am I supposed to talk?
Yeah, do you want to say something?
I can also point out that we did this ethnoarchaeology. Can they hear me? Okay. We focus on southern Vietnam because the kakoto in southern Vietnam is very different from northern Vietnam or central. So that this is the reason why it was a good opportunity for us to do the ethnoarchaeological work on the pottery and the kakoto dish in southern Vietnam, because they don't do it anymore in northern Vietnam. So when we were there, they use in northern Vietnam they use aluminum pots, and also the use of pottery in households are no longer available as well, not as readily available as in the restaurants. And I think Michelle pointed this out. Okay, Michelle.
Yeah, actually, that's what the unique. I think that's the present day observation in Vietnam is also an inspiration to really study about culinary diversity in ancient times, because Vietnam is a very long country from north to south. For sure, me knows this, but there are a lot of differences in culinary practice between the south, central, and northern Vietnam. So, and speaking of speaking of restaurants, so it's quite new, it's quite unusual to us, but we have to check the literature. Maybe it's actually not. Okay, so but we look hard for searchable work. So we only found two. So one by Brian Hayden, written back in 1979. So actually I'm not able to find the original copy, but it's cited in one of the of the recent seminal works of Brian Hayden. So what he did is, during his first ethnoarchaeological study, he recorded a traditional house that also doubles as a restaurant. So he recorded the structure, the ceramic inventories, and descriptions of everything that he can observe in a restaurant in San Mateo, Ixtatan in Mexico, and another work by Jayjay could have been close. It's a PhD dissertation on food waste and their significance to ethnic integration of the Chinese in Arizona, but he only focused on households and excluded public and commercial cooking in restaurants. So if he included the restaurants that these households owned, it could have been a nice work on restaurant ethnoarchaeology. Okay, so the work described here is part of my dissertation project in University of Florida on cuisine and community identity in Neolithic and Metal Age Southeast Asia through organic residue analysis of archaeological, experimental, and ethnographic pottery with focus on prehistoric southern Vietnam. So here's here's a map of southern Vietnam, and also known as the Mekong Delta, and for sure our Min is also familiar. So I was able to study the pottery assemblage from 4 archaeological sites, starting with Rak Nui, very near to the coast, then going inland, Anshon. They are bought from the Neolithic period. So when we say Neolithic period, it's generally it's when agriculture and animal management started. And also going further inland, so there's this Logak site that was that was excavated in 2014 that I was able to join. So it's a site straddling from Neolithic to the Metal Age, and also and also the last one is the Goochua, a metal age site. So they're all in the province of Long An, where earthenware cooking pots in the form of open bowls are only used to prepare and serve that fish stew that we called kakoto. And as we mentioned ago, so this culinary practice is distinct from those of Central and Northern Vietnam. So okay, so so back in 2012. Well, in United, so to further contextualize, in the United States, you are allowed to have a funded trip before your actual dissertation. Like they call it a pre-dissertation trip, which usually the agenda is you will be able to go to one place, scout for sites, for collaborators as well, to be able to do your research. So my participation in the post-excavation work for archaeological materials recovered from Rakhnu's site in early 2012 by Fredeliza and Professor Philip Piper was, it was actually their post-excavation work on the archaeological materials excavated from the Rakhnu site in early 2012. So they excavated in early 2012, and I contacted, hey, can I include that site in my dissertation project? So and then they told me, okay, then join us in later in the year. So while they were sorting out the materials, I helped a bit. I also selected and collected the pottery samples recovered from the 2008, 2009, and 2012 excavations of Goochua, Anshon, and Rakhnu sites, respectively, in the storage of Long An Provincial Museum. So in conjunction with the building of reference collection for freshwater fish from southern Vietnam by Fredeliza Campos, experimental cooking activities with freshwater fish were also done in the backyard of Long An Museum. It was also planned to do ethnoarchaeological survey on food-related activities of people using earthenware ceramics with collection of used pots with approval from the Institutional Review Board of University of Florida. So in U.S. institutions, each of them has the Institutional Review Board, and before you go to the field, you should have you should apply the permit from the IRB, submit a questionnaire, and sometimes they make you revise the questionnaire. And you can only execute that questionnaire instrument if they approve it. So okay. And so this is actually the interior of the museum. Okay, and also, ayan. Okay, so this is actually the experimental archaeology part where we collaborated. So what happens is, okay, so ISA needs to establish the reference collection for fishes in southern Vietnam, especially those coming from the Mekong River, and then I also needed additional reference materials for organic residue analysis. So what we're able to came up with is cook the fish in the pot. And then, of course, the fish oils will be absorbed on the pot. And then she'll get the fish bones, further curate them, and to be able to make this fish reference collection. Because she did one in the Philippines, but between Philippines and Vietnam, it's all islands and mainland. So, and knowing the biodiversity of fishes, so she has to make another collection for Vietnam. Vietnamese fish remains. So this is some of our cooking activities at the backyard of the Long An Provincial Museum. And okay, so what else? So they have this clay stove almost similar to us, and guess what? they call their clay stove karang. Did I pronounce it right, Min? Karang. the stove, the clay stove. So karang, it's similar to in the Philippines we call it kalan. So it's quite a connection. Okay, oh my God, this was actually 10 to 11 years ago. So Isa, do you want to Nasaan na ba si Isa? Isa? Ay?
So, I mean,
do you want to add on this?
Well, yes. Well, we are very specific about the fish that we cook. So I have all the documentation of what was being cooked, but also the idea of doing the residue analysis came from Batangas when I was doing surveys with Grace and Anna. I think Anna wants to go online as well in AU. But because we know from ethnography as well that fish is very specific. When you cook it in a pot, it leaves this certain smell, so it stays in that pot, and they only cook fish in that particular pot. They don't cook anything else because of that specific smell. So that's why we thought it's possible that we might be able to get some signature when we did this. So I was very happy and enthusiastic to do this with you because I know from ethnography in Batangas, households were doing this kind of fish cooking in a specific pot. So this idea came is still there and is still being done in also in Vietnam. So it's only for fish as well. Other meats like pork, they cook it elsewhere in another pot, and they can cook different dishes as well. So there is some sort of exclusivity. That's why it's possible. There is a possibility that the the organic residue might be okay if it's done on fish. So, and of course, the reference collection that I built is continuous. There's about for this for Michelle with Michelle, I've done about 40 different families of fish from the Mekong River brackish water, and Michelle has that in her dissertation, the complete list of the reference collection, the fish that was cooked in the pot, and the others that I cooked outside the experimental that we did.
Okay, okay. So that's how we did, and probably we can also do this here. The cooking to get the remains at all levels. So there are restaurants that use earthenware pots in southern Vietnam to prepare these dishes. So we took opportunities to collect the clay pots used to serve kakoto or braised caramelized fish to on open bowl. So in two restaurants. So this is the first restaurant. It's named Pong An, and it's near the bus terminal in Tan An City, where the research team frequently went for dinner. So it is a small home-based restaurant, eatery, or something akin to carinderias in the Philippines, or I don't know if I pronounce this right. Okay, na hang no in Vietnam. So this kind of restaurant, which could be attached or not with the household. Wait a sec. Okay. It's very common in Southeast Asia. So amazingly, without any hesitation, so the household staff just allowed us to take this first pot out. So probably because, as we see in this slide, this pot was already worn out with cracks. So also the cooking process was stewing or stir frying. So we see charred residues on the inside. So next, okay, so the second restaurant is Tuita in the same city, which is a bigger one for meetings and events. And for a legitimate archaeology, there should be at least an interview with the owner and their staff, aside from the collection of an ethnographic sample. So with the help of Diliman and Nguyen Tisao, who are the staff of there are actually high-ranking staff of the Long An Provincial Museum. So we interviewed the owner of the restaurant about the use of clay pots in preparation and serving of food, consequently leading to the collection of another pot. So this pot is also worn out with cracks and already lost a handle, as you see in the slide. And it was observed that the kakoto in the second pot had pork fat, which was not observed in the same dish on the first pot from the previous restaurant. So the organic residues on both pots from two restaurants are expected to represent mixtures of fish, vegetable oil, spices, and sugar, as well as the pork fat in the second pot. So okay, so this is just to show the some pictures of the interview with my co-presenter Isa. So she's wearing the pink shirt there. And okay, so this is okay. So the one in with the white pink blouse is Diliman, and the one with the evergreen blouse is Nguyen Tisao. So, and this is the so the guy in green is the owner of the restaurant, and also, and aside from the interview, we were also allowed to tour around the restaurant, especially the kitchen. Okay, so this is the field questionnaire on the use of the clay pot. So although the questionnaire used as a guide was in English, the interview was conducted in Vietnamese, and the responses were translated and transcribed into English by Diliman. So here are the there are more observations of the food preparations at the kitchen, and seeing double, these are actually just chicken. This one. So before using the pot, they actually smear something before actually using the pot. I'm not sure if it's sugar. So these two pots, along with other modern samples and archaeological pottery samples from prehistoric sites in southern Vietnam, underwent organic residue analysis for lipid profiling, compound-specific isotopic analysis, and bulk isotopic analysis. Okay, so here are the biomolecular profiles of these two pots. So, okay, so at the side near the exit is it's from the first pot from the first restaurant, and at my side is the second pot from the second restaurant. So the upper half shows the biomolecular profiles as total lipid extracts, and the one below are their profiles as fatty acid metal esters. But generally, so both pots have the amount of C16 or palmitic acid at least twice as that of stearic acid or C18 fatty acid. So which is usually common for pots used for cooking fish. They also exhibit a range of fatty acids common for cooking terrestrial animals, and some unsaturated fatty acids peculiar to aquatic resources. So, and there are also other lipids, but I think what's notable with these pots, there are some aquatic biomarkers, which are okay. So next, so before going to other results, we have this to foreground the isotopes, but basically because we have some archaeological pottery with charred surface residues, so we did some bulk stable isotopes to determine the the carbon and nitrogen ratios. But basically for the carbon, it's based on usually based on whether the plant underwent C3 or C4 photosynthetic cycle, and for nitrogen, it usually depends on if the trophic level of the food item. So the higher the trophic level, the higher the delta 15N. Okay, so that's for the bulk isotopes. But so back to the compounds. Okay. So in organic residue analysis, sometimes you get a lot of compounds to identify, and sometimes you only have these two fatty acids, the one with the 16 and 18 carbons. So regardless, these two fatty acids are useful that you can do compound-specific isotopic analysis with them, which we can figure out if the food items are depend on the 6 categories. So you still have the okay, so here's the chart with the C16 and C18 delta 13C isotopes. So at the more positive quadrant, usually there are C3 plants and then the C4 plants, and usually the freshwater resources are more positive than the marine products are more positive than the freshwater resources, and for the terrestrial animals, the ruminant, the non-ruminant animals are more positive than the non-ruminant animals. So you can it's really nice if you have both biomolecular data and isotope data, so you can really be specific with this based on the lipids. So for back to the ethnographic pots, and And these values are actually geographically variable. So for the two pots, along with other modern samples that we have from pottery, from animals, so these two pots fell into the range for the freshwater fish. So there's this guy. Okay, yan siya. Okay. Quick. Ay, sorry. Okay, so prehistoric pottery with rims and stands that were collected from the four sites in southern Vietnam, majority of them are restricted pots, yung mga jar-like ba. Pero but next to them are the open bowls. So speaking of the open bowls, we often assume that they are used for serving food, but based on our observation in southern Vietnam, they could have also been used for cooking or maybe heating of food to be served back then. So, meron lang babanggitin na for archaeological pottery that we can relate the findings. So first, this one. So this pottery sherd is an open bowl from Anshon, the Neolithic site. So basically, it has one of the aquatic resource biomarker, the phytanic acid, and the isotopes also fell on the freshwater fish. Tapos, yung dalawang pots ito from Logak and Logak and Goachua. So they have bulk and compound specific isotopic values that also fell on the range of the freshwater sources. Okay, so these three pots that I mentioned, ayan, so they are also featured in another paper na yung based on their biomolecular profile, they were used to also prepare leafy vegetables that with a specific combination of aquatic and terrestrial plants. Ayan. But there's another sherd. Ayan. So the one that you see in the teaser, so we have this one sherd from Logak. Logak site is a Neolithic Metal Age site. So it has these charred residues, and upon close scrutiny, there were actually fish bones. They're unidentifiable, actually, the fish bones. But we did the bulk and the compound-specific isotopes. They fell also into the fresh water dish. Ayan. So, basically, it's possible na yung cooking style na ginawa dito ay similar to the kakoto. But we don't say na eksakto yung ingredients. Syempre, imposible yun. Ayan. Sorry about that. Okay. So, yun, so we think that yung what we see presently in southern Vietnam, and we pwedeng makapag-provide ng insights for interpreting possible prehistoric culinary practices involving yung mga similar na earthenware pots. Pero syempre, you saw that there are a lot of body sherds. Of course, body sherds can come to any other form, but at least baka similar in the cooking practices, not necessarily the ingredients, because we will never tell. Ayan. So, and ito nga, and as a parting word, ayan siya. And the nice thing about the restaurants using pottery is they could help preserve the traditional crops of pottery production. Kasi realistically speaking, there are only a few households, or almost none, that use clay pots and clay stoves for their cooking. And we also hope na magawa namin ng larger project, more formal kaysa sa ganitong formal. So yun lang. Okay, thank you very much. Hopefully nag-overrun tayo due to technical problems. So
Yes, thank you, Ma'am Michelle and Isa, for that presentation. Now I think we have a couple minutes for questions. If anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand and let me know. Okay, one.
So, hi, Michelle. Thank you for the very nice presentation. I'm very interested in this kind of work also to develop zooarchaeology in that ethnographic line. We can collaborate later on. So something that is not clear to me, if what's the final connection? I mean, how far back archaeologically you can trace this particular practice in the past? Did you find any final?
Early Metal Age or early Bronze Age. And that's like okay, so I'm not good at memorizing dates actually, so
Before 10th century.
okay, that
Definitely.
no it's wait, Metal Age.
It's about 2,500
Mm-hmm. Okay, I had this
for Vietnam.
okay, there's this. See, I'm not really good at memorizing dates, so yeah, we have this map here. Okay, so Logak is 1300s to 400 BC. That's my rough translation from the published dates in Grono, in the work of Grono et al. 2022. The dates there are in BC. Oh, so yeah, that's probably around 13. Yeah.
Isn't that too young? 1,500
Hmm?
for the Neolithic?
4 BC.
150 BC.
Okay, did I translate it wrong?
I think that's the Neolithic Metal Age. Rocks.
Yeah, it was a short.
So it's around 2,000.
Yeah, there were 2 occupations in the Logak site, as based on the recent findings, and both occupations are just lasted from a few hundreds of years.
Michelle, what do they call the pot itself now? The one that they use for, the one that you sample.
Okay.
You got the name of the kara.
Yeah.
Kara. What's the name of the pot?
Yeah, I didn't remember the name of the pot. I only named. But yeah, I can
But
check
it
it.
has a specific name? They call it like, it has a specific label? Do you recall?
Yeah, for sure there is. But why I remember the Karang, because it's very near the Kalan. So
That can also be significant. How they call it, if they give it a name, then that means perhaps it's specialized, really. If it's just a general name, then it's not specialized. And that's why you can cook fish, you can cook pork, etc.
okay,
Hey Michelle, are all these lipids, do they weather the same time? I mean, do we have a study that terrestrial isotopes or lipids, whether they decay at the same rate as other isotope markers?
other biomolecular.
Yeah.
I think not. It also depends on the taxonomy, actually.
Given as everything equal, right? Will they all decay in the same rate?
I think not, because lipids are a huge chemical.
They're complex, right?
Yeah.
So some will decay faster,
Yeah.
and some will decay slower, right? So that could be a worry because presence is good, but the absence might not, maybe just simply taphonomic.
Taphonomic. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you see the one with the fish bone sticking on it, like there are only the 2 fatty acids, no other.
Yeah.
No other molecules. But it's different because there are a few pottery with lots of lipid compounds on them.
Yeah.
So, taking advantage of this, I will, of course, let other questions come, but taking advantage of this talk, I would like to tell that our students here that fishes could be very exciting, actually. We are not really developing their potential yet, so I take advantage that Isa is also here, so she kindly offered not so long from now as part of her PhD coming and giving some seminars about fishes. about preparation of fishes, about how the potential for archaeology. So, and we have a wonderful collection that was prepared by Isa precisely. So I invite students here to be interested in fishes, because after her, we have not a legacy about fish studies in the Philippines so far, as far as I know.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. So the one that we did in the Longan Museum. So what happened to those fishes after the meat of of those fishes after cooking? So we ate some of them. Some of them were fed to the puppies. So the nice thing about the experimental cooking is you can eat what you cook after, like, convert them into a more decent or palatable dishes, and then eat eat them. So, and I think we've been doing it in some of the animals, like you did the lechon or
Can I also add something, Michelle?
We don't see those spots anymore in the restaurants. So you still have it. So it's still being used in for fishing. How about now in the north? Oh no, no more in the north. Just the south.
Can I add just one question last for me? So you talk about restaurant and archaeology. That's a very interesting term that I don't know if you are coining or somebody else coined it.
No, I just restaurant as a place to do ethnoarchaeology. That's what I mean.
Okay, but it's very sellable. So yeah, it's the term culinary archaeology or gastronomic archaeology being used.
Yeah, some of the food archaeologists do it.
Okay, nice. Thank you. That's all for me.
So thank you. So I just asked more some information. In the northern Vietnam, we also have the fish like that, but it's the especially okay, and it's quite different from the south. The fish also put in the clay pot, but we have the lid. It means the cover. Yeah, we have the cover. Yes, cover for the pot, and after that we heat in the fire, and after that we use. It means we cover it. We use the charcoal to cover it. We can use a straw, yeah, to cover it, and it means it is a long time, maybe 6 hours or maybe more than it. It means the fish is very delicious. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I remember it right, I think there are a lot of fish soup being put in the pots
I think
up from central up to the north. Yep. Like the dishes being put in the pot, like more about fish soup.
no. In the north, we especially for one one fish, the big maybe the big fish, and we cut chop, and we put it in the small pots like that, and we heat and we cover here for the long time, maybe nearly one day. It means when the long hour, the fish more delicious.
Do you mean do you is that fermentation? Is that fermentation process? Covering it for the long time? Fermentation.
Fermentation.
Fermentation, like they add something like yeast, then leave it for long periods of time until it develops into something else.
Yes, we put that. And
Can I add something, Michelle?
very famous in the northern of Vietnam. Yeah, and I think it's nearly same to the. So I mean the brand is nearly the same to cá hot dog. It's special for south, and one thing special for the north. Yeah.
Can I clarify
Very
something?
much me. We should talk more about this later.
Is it possible for me to clarify? Can you
Does
clarify
anyone
something?
else have any questions? As I sort of try to navigate my way through here.
Can I clarify the fish that is being cooked in the pot?
Because if no one has any other questions, I'm sure that Ma'am Michelle or Ma'am Isa could answer your questions in the future. And if you'd like to get their email, do you have an email posted? Okay. Well, yeah, you could just talk to her. Ma'am Michelle's here often enough that you could just bump into her. So yeah. But yeah, thank you, Ma'am Michelle and Isa, for your presentation. Once again. And before we officially end things today, just a couple final announcements. One, that orientation is happening this Friday, right, at 4. So for those of you that are new students, well, that's all for you. But also, there's going to be a photo for everyone that's there happening in the front, right? Okay. There you go. So, new students come at 1, everyone else at 4. Yes, and you should have received an email. So, if you have any questions, ask me, Ma'am Grace, Cervic, anyone. And lastly, our speaker for next week is our very own Quincy, who topic will be coming within the next coming days. So please pay attention to that. And with that being said, thank you everyone for attending.